So the brain starts firing before the person becomes consciously aware. That's crazy. Like, that is crazy business. So what that meant is that the brain made a decision before the person decided that they want to move their hand. That's what the results meant. Ikse, welcome to another episode of Intellectual Intimacy and help for curious minds, deep thinkers, and anyone striving to grow intellectually and emotionally. My name is Gituwo, and I'm from Omshabialingana, one National School in Katwin. And this is episode 6. Hey man, it's been a while, eh? It's been, 2 weeks now? Over 2 weeks, going to think. I'm even ashamed to say that. Yeah, I don't know. The past couple of weeks have been pretty hectic, man. I've just been swamped with work. It's just been a lot. It's been going on. But I'm back. Back like I never left. Back like I never disappeared. I just went ghost. But yeah, I'm back. I've just been re-strategizing and trying to come up with something cool, man, to spice up. Not that I'm not happy with the content that I've been putting up on here. I'm quite happy, I'm not gonna lie. But I've just been looking at different avenues as well, reaching out to different people. And I must say, I'm quite excited about the future of the channel and where the channel is headed. Yeah, I'm not gonna say a lot, yeah, but I'm really happy and excited to see how everything just unfolds. All right. So today's episode is going to be a fairly short one. I haven't got a lot to say in today's sit-down conversation. Yeah, it's just something that might trigger you or even ruin the rest of your day. All right. Yeah, or it might just change the way that you understand life in general. It's because every time we make choices, right? Or at least we think we do. We think we do make choices. Like choices like, when my alarm goes off in the morning, do I wake up or do I just hit snooze and continue enjoying my sleep? Choices like, when I'm offered a job opportunity, do I accept the job or do I reject it? All right. Choices like, do I get out of my comfort zone, chase my dreams, or do I settle for comfort? Understand? And being able to, or being in a position to make such choices, it makes us feel like we are in control of our lives. All right, it makes us feel like we are writing our own story. But what if I told you we're not? No, like for real. What if I told you every decision that we make is predetermined? Just think about it. All right? Just think about it. Does it make sense? Cool. Sit back. See, for centuries, now, some of the greatest minds in philosophy have argued that free will does not exist. All right? That free will is just an illusion. And these are the likes of Spinoza, and it's one of the greatest phenomenal philosopher of the 17th century and radical thinkers. He once said, and I quote, I'm going to try to say this word for word. He once said, men think of themselves free because they are conscious of their actions, but they're ignorant of the causes by which they are determined. And by that he meant, and this is my interpretation or my understanding of that quote. You can look it up on Google. It's there. It's Spinoza. I forgot his name. But what he meant by that is we tend to focus on our actions, right? We don't think much about where our decisions are coming from, where our actions are coming from, what influenced our decision. We make a decision and then we move on with life, but we don't think much about the chain of causes that led us there. We tend to think that just because now I'm in a position to make a decision, so I just make a decision without thinking too much of it. All right, it's something that we do unconsciously. So we just go with life. So I want you to imagine dropping a domino. All right, drop a domino, and when it falls, when it reaches the ground, it will push the domino, it'll knock down a domino that is in front of it. And then the next, and then the next, and then the next, and next. And then the train, now a chain of dominoes are knocked down. So each domino is knocked down by the one before it. Yeah. So he thinks of our thought and action as just another one of a domino that is knocked down by the one before it. So every action, every thought is just like a domino that is being knocked down by the one before it. So you can never have a thought or action that is solely new or not influenced by anything. That's what that's what Spinoza's philosophy is trying to explain, basically. All right. Think of, or let's say you're craving something, man. Something nice. Something like what? Coffee, for example. Yeah. Let's say you're craving coffee. Okay, I'm not a coffee person, but I think coffee will just work quite well in this context. Just say you're craving coffee. Okay. Now the question is, did you choose to have that craving? Like, did you choose to have that craving, to crave coffee? When you are sitting down, wherever you're sitting, and then you suddenly get that craving, man. You crave coffee so bad that you want to step out and go and get coffee. And most likely the answer is no. You did not choose to crave coffee. Understand that? Now the question is, where did the craving come from? It most likely came from the caffeine addiction that you developed over time, or maybe the smell of coffee. So maybe you're walking past a cafe and then the smell of coffee hits you and you just get the craving. Or maybe you're just a coffee person. You're used to functioning with a coffee. So every morning or every evening or before you do work, you're just used to getting coffee. So now it's a routine. You understand that? So every craving comes from something. It wasn't yours. And then from that craving, you then get a desire. Your desire to go outside and get coffee. Whether you're at work, whether you're at home, whatever, wherever you are, you get that desire to step outside and get coffee. Okay? Where does that desire come from? Again, think about it. So if you trace it back enough, you'll realize that it does not come from you. You did not sit down and say, I want to desire to have coffee. Not making sense though. Like, the desire just came out of nowhere. You cannot even describe where it came from. You cannot explain where it came from. It just came out of nowhere. Understand that? But when you look more into this, you realize that the desire is just a reaction to the craving that you have. So you first had a craving for coffee, and then from that craving, you then desire to have coffee. And then now you start wondering, thinking about whether or not you should step outside to get coffee. Understand? It's just a desire. So now you think about this and you realize that having a craving is not your decision. Having a desire also isn't your decision. And then getting to a decision, making a decision, might be your decision, but then your decision didn't just came from, didn't just come from out of nowhere, from a blank place. Ever? So your desire, your decision, whether you decide to mise the feelings that you're getting, the cravings, you decide to mise the desire, it is a decision, but then the fact remains that the decision came from somewhere, was influenced by something. It wasn't just your decision. You did not, as much as you may think it is your will to go and get coffee, but it came from somewhere. The willingness to step out and actually go out and look for coffee and get coffee, it came from somewhere. So that is a philosophical point of view of free will. So just philosophy is one way that we can look at free will. Understand that there's so many different lenses that we can look at this thing, like science. What if I told you that neuroscience is also backing up this idea that free will is non-existent? Yeah, neuroscience. Where am I getting this from? See, in the 1980s, man, there was a neuroscientist. I think he goes by the name of Benjamin Libet. I'm not quite sure how to pronounce the name, but it's Benjamin Libet. So what he did, he was a neuroscientist back in the 1980s. What he did, he conducted an experiment in pursuit to understand if there's a correlation between the human brain and free will. Yeah, human brain and free will. So what he did, he asked a couple of people to be guinea pigs. Guinea pigs, by the way, are people that are being used to conduct an experiment. All right. So few people agreed to be guinea pigs. So how he did it, he asked these people to move their hands whenever they wanted. So he had a couple of people they stretch out their hands over the table, and then whenever they felt like they wanted to make simple hand movements, they were allowed to do so. And at the same time, he had an EEG scan over their hands to measure the brain activity. So what he found there was absolutely astounding. I'm not gonna lie to you. When I read up about this, I was blown away because I never thought this was true, or I never had this perspective until I read that. So he found that before a person's mind could come to decide that I'm moving my hand or making a hand movement, the brain had already done so. Like the brain had already fired. So the brain, there's a lot of neurons in the brain, right? That keep firing. So like right now, because I'm moving my hand like this, there's a lot of neurons, millions of neurons are firing in my brain right now, just for me to be able to make this hand movement, all right? So what he found through the EEG scan is that before a person came to a realization or became consciously aware that they want to move the hand, the brain had already decided that this is the hand that they would be moving. I want you to think about this for a second, man. Just stop. Let's just stop here and think about this for a second. So before a person decides, understand that, because before the conscious mind decides that before the conscious mind decides that I want to move my right hand, the brain had already done so. So the brain starts firing before the person becomes consciously aware. That's crazy. Like, that is crazy business. So what that meant is that the brain made a decision before the person decided that they want to move their hand. That's what the results meant. And that's why I'm saying the results were just astounding. They were just incredible. Shocking also. That from that finding, so people have used it. Some people already. There are people who are still skeptical about using that to back the idea that free will does not exist. But a lot of people, especially neuroscientists, have started that experiment to actually debunk the idea of free will being existent and everything like that. So that was the craziest thing. That was the craziest thing, because it meant that it's the brain that decides, and then the person, when a person comes to be consciously aware that they want to do something, the brain has already decided that you want to do something, or that you are going to do something. Understand that? So now it's as if we are being influenced. Every decision that we make is being influenced by the brain. Every decision that we make is being influenced by the brain. From that finding, it's a crazy thing to think about it, man. It's a crazy thing to think about it. So that's why I'm saying neuroscience also backs up the idea that free will is non-existent. And mostly, some of them, because of that experiment. It's a crazy thing. But anyway, now, uh, free will can be looked at in so many different angles. All right, you can look at this thing through so many lenses. So philosophy is one of them, and neuroscience or science is one of them. But now, because like every other thing in life is looked at in so many different perspectives, and the way that people understand life in general is dependent on the perspective through which people understand or look at certain things. All right. So, like, two people can look at the same thing but have different perspectives of the same thing. It's just the reality of life. Understand that? So now let's flip the perspective. We've been looking at this thing through the lens of philosophy and science. Now let's flip the perspective. Let's look at free will through the lens of religion. Now let's bring in the Christian perspective into the conversation. Now the Bible speaks about free will constantly, not directly though, because I don't know about you or whether maybe it's the Bible that I read, but I've never come across a scripture in the Bible that speaks about free will directly. All right, it speaks about free will, but indirectly. So what happens now is that the Bible tells us, or it commands us to choose righteousness. It tells us to turn away from sin. It commands us to seek God. So that already gives us the element of choice, that we have a choice to an extent. Understand that? So I saw something on YouTube. Someone was speaking about this thing of free will. There actually was a debate, because that's where the episode is. That's what inspired the episode. A video that I saw online on YouTube. It's just a neuroscientist, astrophysicist actually, arguing about the existence of free will. So I was like, no, actually, let me go ahead and make an episode out of this and speak about what I think. Okay, so one of the people, they spoke about something. They said, especially when it came to the Christian perspective of free will, they said, if God is all knowing, all right, that means he knows what will happen tomorrow, right? And oh, sorry about that, man. I had a technical issue, so I had to quickly fix that. So I had to cut the video. But I was still speaking about a video that I saw on YouTube. So this one person said, if God is all-knowing, that means he knows what will happen to us tomorrow. He knows the future. That is correct. That is right. And that means he already knows the decision that I'm going to make tomorrow. And that is right. And then he went on to say, if that is the case, then that means I no longer have free will. So free will is taken away by the fact that someone in this universe already knows what's going to happen, or already knows the decisions that I'm going to take, that I'm going to make in future. And when I heard that, I was a little bit conflicted at first. All right, because it sort of like made sense. I was like, this person is onto something actually. But then I came to a realization with it. No, man, free will, especially in the Christian perspective, is not just about writing our own script, man. Yeah, that is the word. It's not just about writing our own script, because there they were speaking about writing your own script and everything like that, that we are living in a life and we are living off a script that was already written to us. And to some extent, that is true, understand? Because we don't have control over what happens in our life. Like, we don't get to choose whether today it's going to rain or not. But we certainly have authority over whether or not we curse the sky or we dance in the rain. You understand that? So we don't have the ability to choose certain things that we go through, but we definitely have the ability to choose how we react to certain things that happen to us. So just because God is able to know or see what will happen in future in my life, he's able to see what decisions I will make, doesn't take my free will away. You understand that? And to me, what came into my mind is that we do have psychics in this world. right? We have psychics, people that can predict the future. So if a psychic came to me and told me that in the next 2 years, in the next 2 days, this 1, 2, and 3 will happen in my life. So would that then mean I no longer have free will because now the psychic has predicted the future? No, that's one. Two, if the psychic told me that in the next 2 days at 6 p.m. I would step or jump into the car and head to the gym, but I would not get to the gym because I would get involved in an accident and I would die. So if I believe the psychic, I could also just decide otherwise. Understand that? I still have that ability to say, okay, the psychic has predicted the future, so I'm not going to go to the gym. At 6 p.m., I'm just going to stay at home and nothing's going to happen to me. As I still have that element of choice to stay at home. So just because someone has the ability to predict the future or to see into the future, it does not take away my ability to choose when I'm given options. And that is my free will. It does not take away from my free will the fact that I have the ability to choose when I'm given different options. I understand that. So now that brings me, that's how I think, or that's where I think people misunderstand free will, especially when it comes to a Christian perspective, that free will is not about writing our own script. Instead, rather it is about reacting, how we react to the script that has been written for us. Because when we are born, the script is already written. We cannot dispute that. All right. God knows our destiny. He is an all-knowing God. He knows where we're going to end up in our lives. But we have the ability to react to the script. It's not just about writing the script, but it's about how we live based on the script. It's about how we deliver the lines that are in the script. I like this example. Understand, in the Bible, there's a man, a king of Israel, that's called Ezekiel. So Ezekiel, God sent the prophet Isaiah to him. I'm going to tell you verse now where I'm going with the story. God sent the prophet Isaiah to tell him that, listen, Ezekiel, you no longer have any more days to live on this earth. Understand that? It was God who spoke those words through the prophet Isaiah. So God spoke those words through the prophet. Understand that? Remember, God is an all-knowing God, and we live off a script. Understand that? So we are living off a script that has already been written. So another person might say, well, another person is me. I can again say, Ezekiel had reached the end of his script. All right? He had reached the end of his script. His days were over. And as God had told him that, listen, you no longer have any more days to live in this earth. But what Ezekiel did there is what stood out. He knelt down and prayed and asked God to extend his life expectancy. Understand that? So God added 50 more years, if I'm not mistaken, 50 more years. So Ezekiel went on from being done with on this earth to living 15 more years on this earth. And what happened there is that God had already told Ezekiel. So the script was already written that, okay, on this day, it will be the end of Ezekiel. But then Ezekiel reacted. He had the will there, because Ezekiel could have just sit down and accept the words because they're coming from the Most High and all-knowing God, because no one has the power to dispute what God has said. If God has spoken, his word is final. Ezekiel could have just sit back and accepted that, oh, okay, fine, God has spoken, let his word be done. Understand it? But because he had it in him to ask God, that's what free will is. That's the free will that God gave us. The will to react to the script, the will to react to the path that has already been paved for us. That's what free will is. So I don't think free will has got to do with being in control of our life, because we cannot control. Science also accepts that we don't have control over what happens in our lives. Understand, a philosophy accepts that we do not have control over what happens in our lives. So that means our life is already set, but what we do have control over is our reaction to the things that happen to us. Just like Ezekiel reacted to what had already been told to him, because that's the free will that God gave us, the ability to react to the things that happen to us. So that is the true free will, not being in control of our decisions, of our lives, over the world. That is impossible. God is in control of everything. But free will, the true free will that we were given by the Lord, is the one that enables us to react to the script that we are living. That's the true free will. And that's what I think free will is, according to my understanding of everything. So let me know in the comments, section and what you guys think. And if you just think, when you look at free will and when we look at it and different perspectives, what do you think free will is? It was just my 2 cents. Yeah. But also, thank you for making it this far, man. I really appreciate it. And also, as I've already said, I'm excited, super excited about where this channel is headed. I'm really excited. The type of content that I'll be putting up here, it's juicy content. But yeah, so just like, comment, subscribe, and then share. I hope to see you in the next episode. Episode what? 7? Thank you. Take care.